What's up out there? We got done with the Misery Gauntlet and I came back and started playing a little bit. I've been going back and forth between Last Epoch and playing a little bit of this here and there. I've been working on, this is what was my Perforate build, or started life as something else and then ended up being a Perforate build. Now I've switched over to Ground Slam. So I tried a whole bunch of different melee combat skills out. I don't remember everything I tried. This looks like it's going to end poorly. I should get out of there. But I tried a whole bunch of different skills, and when we were doing the Misery Gauntlet, I was playing with Sunder. So I came out and I thought, well, what's Sunder like when I have a lot faster attack speed? And it hits hard, but I didn't particularly care for the skill itself. Like even with a full, like this character here, this isn't like the greatest character ever by any stretch, but it's a lot faster than what I had in the Misery Gauntlet. And even then, Sunder still didn't really feel that good. Like it needs a lot faster. I don't know. It just felt slow. And what I liked about it was that it had a long AoE, not necessarily a wide AoE, but I liked how it just kind of went across the screen and killed stuff. Well, we're not killing anything here, are we? I'm just going to skip that. Moving on. So I tried a whole bunch of different skills out because I wasn't real happy with the way Perforate was turning out. And even when I was doing the Misery Gauntlet, like I tried Perforate in there for a little while and it just didn't feel good. I'm sensing a pattern that the bleed versions of all this stuff is not good. You know, it's obvious that bleed is not keeping up. I know there's a reason why melee and bleed are not very popular these days, but you know, you kind of want to try things out and see how they go. You know what I mean? Why is that? You know, is it that it's that bad of a skill, or is it that, you know, people just don't want to, that it takes an extra 5 seconds to kill stuff on the map? I mean, if it's just a simple matter of a little bit less damage, who cares? But if it's like significant differences, then that's a whole different ballgame. And yeah, it is significant differences. It's taken a while to get there. And one of the things that I found is that as I play this skill here, this Ground Slam, and some of the other melee skills that I played, what I'm finding a lot of is that most of these melee skills give about the same performance, and you can really just swap out one skill for the other, and it makes almost no difference. Like, it's kind of funny how the whole thing works out. Like what did I put on? There's one that spins around in a circle, and I hated the AoE it had. It was just awful. But there's a whole build. It was like a circular AoE. I don't remember what it was. I'll be into town here in a second, or into the hideout, but man, I hated it. What I was searching for is bleed builds and what people were using for the passive tree, the skill gems and stuff like that. And I was trying to find what looked good and what might work with Perforate. And so I kept swapping things out. I would change socket colors and stuff like that to equip something a little different or whatever. Like I tried a bunch of different things. And what I ended up finding out is that there's very little difference in the passive tree. There's very little difference in the gems you use, stuff like that. Like there's so many things that just don't matter. Like you think the passive tree matters a tremendous amount, which, I mean, it does in the sense that you're using a two-handed weapon or dual wielding or using an axe or using a sword, like that kind of stuff. Do you have a shield? You know what I mean? Like those kinds of things made a difference as to what nodes you chose. But for the most part, like if I go into the passive tree here, my mouse wheel is terrible. So for the most part, if you're playing Juggernaut, you're going to come down here. You're going to come up through Heart of the Warrior, Born to Fight. You're probably going to come down this way somewhere. You're probably going to come out to the outer edge. You're probably, if you're doing two-handed axes or something like that, you're probably picking up this piece here. You're coming down this way. You're picking up this for your the Panopticon and all that stuff for your totems. You're probably coming down here to Wrecking Ball. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these are all just very similar. I can click somewhere where it's not, oh, you can't even see. So Wrecking Ball's down here. That's for two-handed axes and stuff like that. Like there's so many of these things. Most people come through Bloodless. I looked at so many different trees for both Slayer, Gladiator, Juggernaut, because I mean that's what I've been playing. Is just these different variations of all the same thing. I've had my Slayer Bone Shatter build, my Juggernaut Bone Shatter build, and then I built this one up to be a dual wielded. It was supposed to be dual wielded Bone Shatter, but then it became dual wielded Perforate, and then I went and switched over to a Lacerate build. Not Lacerate itself, but I switched my passive tree over, which was Axe and Shield, and what you gain on Shield is all kinds of block attempt, and I actually like having a shield on this. This feels good. I like the way this is running. I like having the Immortal Flesh. I like how this is panned out for this particular build, but in the course of just playing around with all this stuff, you know, you're going to have Juggernaut. You're going to probably have Barbarism. You're probably going to take this Jewel Saga. You know what I mean? Like, there's not much of this that deviates. What does deviate is like over here on, if you're doing Maces or Scepters, or over here on Swords. Like, you wouldn't have this set here. You'd have this set here, or that set there. But you're probably going to have the rest of this stuff, you know? And some builds use Iron Reflexes, some don't. It's like a lot of the Golem's Blood's used in a lot, Cloth and Chains used in a lot. Like, a lot of these don't change. But you may go more towards the left of the passive tree on some builds, and you may go more towards the right with Precise Technique, Vol Pact, stuff like that. If you're on the right side, you're probably picking up Weathered Hunter or Freedom of Movement with Precise Technique and Vol Pact, and you know what I mean? Like, there's as massive as this passive tree looks, there's not a whole lot of variation in it. And most of the things that you're going to take are pretty standard. And I was even looking at, I was trying to find, I don't remember whose build I'm following for my, or whose build I did follow for my Bone Shatter Juggernaut, but I think it was Tripolar. Well, I found like 5 or 10 different Tripolar builds that were all kind of the same. I was trying to find the one Juggernaut Bone Shatter build that Tripolar did that I'm following, and I ended up finding like all the other builds that he did. I can't even find the one that I based mine off of. And I know it's his because it's in the notes. It says it's his, you know, and I'm like, man. So, and if you look at these, they're just all kind of the same. So a lot of the stuff that I'm doing here is not necessarily what I'm going to call right or correct or whatever. It's what I was doing for this build and trying things out. But I found out that a lot of it doesn't matter. For instance, you can come in here and swap out Ground Slam. You're still going to use Multi-Strike. You're still going to have Brutality, Melee Fizz. Chance to Bleed is optional. I have Life Tap because I have no mana. But like a lot of these here are basically what the Bone Shatter build uses. Now, I did learn some different things out, and I did try some other stuff here. So instead of cast when damage taken, this one uses Reckoning with life gain on hit, Pulverize, and Life Tap, and that's because you got a shield. So basically with Reckoning, you block. When you block with your shield, you actually do a counter attack, and that's when you get this life gain on hit and Pulverize and all this stuff. So that's pretty cool. I kind of like how that goes. Now, this one also has Culling Strike on one of the totems. And then I did put cast when damage takens on here for vulnerability. But then the rest of this stuff like Leap Slam, Faster Attack, Life Tap. Life Tap's on a lot of these skills here. But a lot of this is pretty much the same. Generating Rage and all that is pretty much the same. Although generating Rage on this build is different. We're generating Rage off of this Axe Mastery over here instead of one of the Axe Masteries off on that side somewhere. I don't remember where it is on the other one. In fact, it could probably go on this one here. I have made a bunch of changes on this. This build was started off as a bleed build, and that's what I was trying to build it as. I had Bloodletting for a while. I was over here into Savage Wounds for a while. I was thinking about coming up and around over to Vanquisher because it did a little more damage and stuff. But then I started messing around with this Ground Slam, and this thing is not, it does bleed. And I think it does bleed because we're using an axe. So axes inherently generate bleed. And I've also, my axe on here also has attacks have 25% chance to cause bleed and 37% increased damage with bleeding. I put that on there for Perforate. We also do a little bit of fire damage on here and everything, but mostly this was on here for the bleeding damage that it does. And that's why I'm on Gladiator. That's why I have Gratuitous Violence. Bleeding enemies you kill explode, dealing 10% of their max life as fizz damage, 20% more fizz damage over time. Which actually that might help with the bleeding stuff quite a bit too, the fizz over time. So maybe I want to put these back. I'm not sure. But my general point is that I've been able to swap in and out of so many different passive points on here and different skills and try different things. A lot of it doesn't matter. And when you start following build guides, you know, everybody talks about how exact you follow the guide. And then when you start tinkering around, not deviating just because you want to deviate, but like you're deviating to try to do something, and you start mixing builds together, you find out that as long as you're working with a Slayer, Gladiator, Juggernaut build, a lot of these same points are the same. It just depends on what weapons and armor and stuff you're using. You know, do you take this for evasion, iron reflexes for evasion? Are you using axes, swords, and stuff like that? And I've even crossed over with some of my skill or some of my passive points into, well, all of these builds. I've tried different things. Like I've got fortification. I actually like taking this fortification mastery to generate fortification this way. It's a bunch of extra points on the tree rather than the skill gem, but then I can put other skill gem or support gems in here. I can do other support gems to come up with that. And I actually kind of like this better. I think this is I think this gives you 23 fortification versus 20 off of the gem. Now, could I apply these points in a better place? Probably. Let's see. Do I have any of these other gems in here? I don't remember all the ones that I tried. They would be leveled up of some sort, and I might have got rid of some of them. Well, there's the lacerate one I tried. Melee splash support. That might be kind of cool to try out. Tried a bunch of MAME stuff on here. I guess I don't have those. Oh, I don't even remember which ones they were on here. I don't think I tried cleave. Not that it really makes a ton of difference on here, to be honest with you, but I did try a bunch of these. I think I tried, how did I find some of those? Were they bleed? Blade Storm. Blade Storm might have been that might have been the one that I tried, that I was trying to find here. So it does a giant circle, well, about that big on the screen. But the problem is you can't move with it, and you just sit there and like I was doing that blood and sand stance for a little while. I had that support gem or whatever it is on here. Well, with Blade Storm uses it. I was trying to find all the things that worked with what I had with Perforate. So I was trying other bleed builds, Lacerate. I tried this Blade Storm. I hated this Blade Storm. Lacerate was kind of I didn't care for it all that much. What I like about this is this thing covers that much of the screen. Like it covers, I don't know, a third of the screen. Something like that. Like the bottom half of the screen is half covered, you know, or however you want to say that. It covers a lot of AoE. The problem with it is it doesn't really cover in a circle. It only covers in like a cone going out. And I noticed that a lot of these melee skills are kind of the same, all the same thing. Like they all kind of operate the same way. It's just they have a different look to them. Like one's a circle, one might be a slightly wider cone, and one's a slightly narrower cone, stuff like that. So I used Ground Slam a lot in the Gauntlet, and I liked it. And I don't know how well this would be in the end game, but what I'm kind of driving at here is that I could theoretically run Ground Slam from the very beginning of the game with most of the same skill gems and most of the exact same setup. Like this is different because it's got a shield and an axe, but I could do cast 1 damage taken over here. I can have all the same Ancestral Protector, Ancestral War Chief. I'm still doing Blood Rage. We've still got Berserk on here. We've still got Leap Slam, Ancestral. Like this is pretty much the exact same thing that Bone Shatter is. So I'm thinking I could probably take this skill here, and this is doing well. That was a tier 11 map I was in. I could take this Ground Slam from the pretty much the very beginning of the game all the way through into probably white-red map, something like that. I don't know that I can boss with it. I am currently level 90. I've put a few levels on here. Armor is only 30 grand, and I only have 3,000 health, but And well, you know, this is dealing all the blood stuff too, which I mean, I probably wouldn't do shield. I could take a Juggernaut and put almost all the exact same things on here. And this is like I'm running the Carnage Heart. I'm running the Immortal Flesh. This is most of the same things that are on my Juggernaut build. Like I could run almost all of this and be in the same boat that I'm in right now. It's that easy. So I think that's what I'm probably going to do for next league is run Ground Slam, build up all the rest of this, because Ground Slam can go a long way. And there's a transition point when you go into Bone Shatter that's kind of awkward, but that wouldn't be a problem with Ground Slam. I'd just keep going. And then when I could, you know, throw a Bone Shatter on one of these alt weapons back there and let it, you know, raise up in the background. So that might be what I do. This is not bad. And, you know, it's the exact same. Almost everything is the same, except it's a different main skill. And I might have to slightly change out some of these other gems, you know, or some of the other skill gems or something. It's not that big a deal. But like all of this gear is cast off gear from my other Bone Shatter builds. So it all kind of feeds into the same thing. The passive tree. I know this one's got shields and stuff, but I could totally do this for almost verbatim and have my Bone Shatter build. Just come up with one and then switch over to the other. I think that's totally doable. So let's switch over to Bone Shatter. I have been doing a few things with that. Let's take a look at it real quick. Now, I don't remember exactly where we left off before the gauntlet, but I remember I did switch because Tripolar's build went over this way, and I think we picked up freedom of movement, and I think we had maybe some other stuff down on this right-hand side, and maybe down in here somewhere. I think there was some differences. I found a build that I liked, and, you know, I've been trying and meddling around with Perforate and Lacerate and now Ground Slam and doing the Bone Shatter Slayer, the Bone Shatter Jug. I've seen so many different variations of all this. They're all kind of about the same. They all kind of do about the same damage, and they all kind of function the same way. There's not a ton of difference here. So I've been taking the things that I like off of one and putting it in the other and trying it out. And I've actually modified this, according to what I found on PoE Ninja, to this, what you see here. Now, it's kind of a hybrid of a few things, because I don't think the PoE Ninja one uses Iron Reflexes. I think that was Tripolar's build, or vice versa. It was one of those two, something like that. But anyway, we've got Weathered Hunter over here. We've picked up Destroy over here. Now, this is a two-handed build. And this is coming over here. Of course, we've got Wrecking Ball, Bastion Breaker. We've got Bannerman. Again, with the Steadfast for the fortification over here. I love having Call to Arms, so you can just do your Ancestral Cry real easily. A lot of these come over here across with Bloodless. Pick up Soul of Steel for that type of stuff there. Inexorable for endurance charges, of course, Juggernaut, Harpooner on this one, and then we only do the one half of this side. We don't do Cleaving, and then we've got Barbarism up here. The big change that I've made over here since the last video I think we did, since before the Gauntlet, once I came out of the Gauntlet, dude, I ran a tier 14, 15, or 16 map right after the Gauntlet. Like after you're playing hardcore and going all turtle mode and just being as slow and careful as possible, and you rip into a tier 16 map and you're just flying along and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe how different this game is now that I'm free. You know, it felt like everything was well oiled and just flying. I couldn't believe how much different it was. But I did make a few changes once I came out of that. And one of those was to come over here into all of this. I think this was on Karn's build, but not Tripolar's build, I think. I don't remember exactly. And it might have been on some of this came from one place, some of it came from another place, but I noticed the one guy, I think the PoE Ninja build had this on there for this Armor Mastery, which gives you +1 to all max elemental resistances if all your items have armor, which there's armor, and armor. So I get +1 elemental resistances. So we're up at 82, 80, and 81% elemental resistances. I didn't realize how important that was. I've been watching a ton of other videos. I can't remember. Somebody did Somebody did something. They were talking about all the different nodes on all these different keystones on the Wooly, I think it was. I was watching one of his videos, and he was talking about all the different keystones on this side and how important it was to do all these max resistances because it just shunts that much more damage off. So after I watched his video, I came over here and put all these points in here, I think. And it might have been on the other build I was doing that with. But one of these builds, I thought it was this one. I added all this stuff in here. Like I looked at it, I'm like, all right, I have to reformulate this and come over here to all this stuff here for the max fire, the max. I'm pretty sure it was this one because I've got the helmet takes 10% of fizz damage taken as lightning, and I wanted to make sure that my lightning res was as high as possible, and that's why I went over on this side. So it was this build here. And then I took this elemental resistance that can't be lowered by curses. I think somebody had some different things. So I'm trying different things out here. And at one point I actually went into Crimson Dance, but I think I stole those points back out. The weird thing is POB, and it must be because this is using an axe. Like I don't have Impale, but it must be because I'm using an axe. POB actually says to come over here and pick up Crimson Dance for a bit of damage. Now I think I'm doing like 2.5, 2.6 million damage with this current setup. And this is Bone Shatter of Complex Trauma. I was running close combat support, but I switched over to Impale support. This looks like it's going to be that much better. So I did make that change. And I made one other change here. So we've got cast when damage taken and vulnerability. And I'm giving this a shot. I don't know if it's going to work or not. So cast when damage taken has life tap and not life tap, molten shell and one other one. I can't remember what the other one was, but maybe it was life tap. I don't know. I opted out of those two. So I'm doing cast when damage taken and vulnerability so I get the curse off. And then I switched over to vengeance and rage support. So I don't know if like I've got the one, where's that at? One of these axe masteries, this one here. Attacks with axes or swords grants one rage on hit no more than once every second. So I don't know if this double dips, because I was reading some forums and people were saying that you could put rage support on vengeance. And whenever you do your auto attack or counter attack, whatever it is, whenever you do this counter attack, this vengeance can actually trigger because you're damaging yourself with the trauma stack. So you can actually trigger this thing and generate some rage that way. I was trying to see if it would generate a rage a little bit faster, but I don't know that it does or doesn't. I might try something different with vengeance and see how that goes, or just put my molten shell back on and leave vengeance on its own. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of the counter attack or riposte or whatever. That counter, you get hit, you give damage back. I kind of like that idea. So again, that's another thing I can rob. But like if you look at this, we've got Blood Rage, Determination, Pride, War Banner, the Ancestral War Chief, Berserk, faster attacks, precision, arrogance, leap slam. Like all of this, all I have to do is swap this Bone Shatter of Complex Trauma out for that ground slam. I've still got Brutality, Multi-Strike, Ruthless, and Melee Fizz. I'm sure the Impale would still work also. Like I could use this exact same setup and just switch that one gem out and it's the same thing. And all of this would be still applicable. Like I think that's very cool. And I like that concept. So as I was talking about with the other build there, I kind of dig that. So I think that's what I'm going to do, is that way I can build up to this build here in the next league and then swap out to Bone Shatter a little bit later on or whatever, and just see how Ground Slam goes. I've seen some people on PoE Ninja doing Ground Slam. It's not very many, I don't think, and they're doing different setups than that. But just knowing that it works and I know Bone Shatter is going to be a lot better and scale a lot more, but it's workable and it's fast. This is kind of slow. Can I throw these out? It gets a little bit faster. But that other setup that I've got is just insanely fast on the attack. So the other thing that I've done since I've came back is I now have, I think I had the Formed and the Elder Slayers done before, but I've now beaten the Absence of Value and Meaning, so that one's done. I also did the Forgotten. I got all of the Distant Memories done. I finally got the Twisted one today, and I had a Forgotten sitting there. I just didn't have the Twisted memory, so I got that done. That one's taken care of. I still haven't gotten a Maven's Invitation for the Twisted yet, and then the rest of these, like the Cortex and the Alluring Abyss and all those are a little bit more difficult. The Feared is tough. The Hidden is going to be hard because I don't, what's that come from? Whatever that, oh God, totally escaped me. Whatever that mechanic is, I'm not playing it. It's over here, I think, isn't it? Breach. So I would need to spec into Breach to actually get that done, and I just haven't done it. But I have gotten a few more things done. I've fought some of the Maven invitations quite a bit. I have built up another couple of Maven fights, I think. So we tried one Maven fight. I got my ass kicked. Well, I had one at the time. I've got another Maven's Writ here, and I've got 4 splinters into the next one. I did try Fragment of Purification, which looks like that's the one I got done. I tried the Hydra or whatever this Hydra one is, and then Drox. One of these is Cyrus, and one of them is what the other guy. I tried these 2 fights. I got my ass kicked. I think this is the one I actually got beat, and I just haven't had enough of these down here to build up. So, been trying stuff, got my build a little bit better. I kind of want to try the Maven again because this build does do a little bit better than what I think it did last time, but I don't know. Kind of, Oh, and the other thing too, I think what I really need to do, and this is what I'm going to plan for next league, I think what I really need to do is do my normal Atlas tree setup, which I'm going to have a video talking about how I'm going to do my Atlas planning. But I think what I need to do is prioritize all these boss fights earlier. I was thinking about this, the game Melver Idol that I play. There's a certain point in Melver Idol where everything funnels down to a certain set of dungeons. That's where you get your gear from to continue forward. And I'm starting to think that's how the Exarch and the Eater is, that you basically need to go into these 2 dungeons, or fight these 2 bosses, I should say, not the dungeons, but you fight these 2 because they're fairly easy. Put them on farm early on. Like I know the Ashes of the Stars or whatever amulet comes off of this is good for the build that I have, but put these 2 on farm and get some gear out of them to try to get the Maven beat. I also know that the Awakened Gems are something I need to prioritize far earlier. And again, with the farming of these bosses, once I'm able to start putting these 2 on farm, once I can beat one or both of them, then I need to really just start putting those on farm and getting the gear from them, trying to get Awakened Gems and stuff like that, build up my power, and then go after the Maven. I think that's what I need to do, is push that content a lot sooner than I am. So, but I did get down to level 400. I am down at depth 400. This stuff gets pretty crazy down here. I've been dying a little bit. Of course, I've been changing my gearing around a little bit. Then I ran out of sulfite, so I wasn't able to come down here anymore. But I've built it back up. Then I spent a bunch of sulfite working on my that other build, the Ground Slam. I spent a bunch there just leveling that up. I was at level like 100, just cruising along. I gained 2-3 levels out of that pretty easily. So, Delve is great for leveling. Fantastic. You know, early on, late on, it doesn't matter. You can just level up. 150, if I wanted to level this character here again, I would stick around the 150 range because you basically just don't die. There's a couple of nodes that I would avoid. A couple of the bossing ones I would try to avoid. What else? The crafting stuff for this, whatever those are called. There's a boss on one of those, the fossil nodes. There's a particular boss on one of those that just kills me every time. So if I'm trying to go for levels, you know, I have to avoid that one. If I don't care about gaining levels, then I can go fight it. But if I'm trying to get away, if I'm trying to actually level, I know not to pick those nodes. But yeah, this is cool. Totally fine. No problem. Level 400, we're good. Good to go. I've tried bringing some of my other builds down here, and they don't do so well. So there is a hard cap. I actually tried bringing my Bone Shatter Slayer build down here. Yeah, that didn't go so well. But I also gutted that build in order to make this build possible, so it's definitely not got the gear. Yeah, there's a Divine Orb. Sweet. It's definitely not got the gear that this does because I stole all this gear to put it over there, and I've been making this gear better. So yeah, that's what we got going on. That's made it down to 400 delve. We've got some of these bosses done. I think I got maybe one more boss. If I could get a twisted invitation, I'll get that knocked out. The feared and the hidden are the only two I have left. I really need to work on the hidden if I want to work. I should say that I would have to really work on that one to get it done. I would have to really spec into it. I've got a ton of unmaking, so I could. I've thought about it. We've got Last Epoch coming out very soon. And I do have some of these splinters, so I could theoretically get in and do some of this stuff. I think I could probably get these going. So this wouldn't be that far out of the realm of possibility. So yeah, but I have like a week to do it because then we get Last Epoch. And I've been trying to play Last Epoch and get familiar with it in the meantime. But yeah, that's kind of how it's going. Been doing fairly well. I don't know how much more of this league I'm going to play. I'm kind of getting into the cycle of the league where you play for really hard and then you kind of tone off for a little while. And I'm starting to get into that ebb and flow. I noticed my video views on my update videos kind of go down after a certain point. Like after that first month, the view numbers tank quite a bit. So I'm thinking a lot of people drop off after like the first month of the league. I mean, I guess I knew that before, but like it's really apparent. And I start finding myself wanting to drop off too. It's not just, everybody else is ditching off. I kind of run into some roadblocks and I'm like, all right, this is as far as I've gotten or I can get. And I kind of don't know where to go. I've spent a lot of time working on different builds. If I could get to where I can just focus on one build, maybe two builds, like if I can really do that. I tried this league, but then I went into Bone Shatter Slayer, Bone Shatter Jug, Perforate Slayer, Perforate Gladiator, and now Ground Slam Gladiator, and I've burned off so many of these Orbs of Regret. I have like no Orbs of Chance left. I burned off fusings and stuff, like trying to get these regrets and things in here to redo things. I have burnt so much of that. So yeah, I don't know how many more of these update videos there's going to be this league. I'm going to continue playing. I wanted to do another video and just kind of catch up, and yeah, I'm still here playing. I've got some changes made. Just throw it all out there. Like I said, I don't really know how much more I'm going to play. We'll see. Waiting on the next league announcement and all that. But that will do it for this video. We will catch you on the next one. Take care.